So just when you thought the Philadelphia 76ers were done making moves this NBA offseason, they go out yesterday and sign one of the best remaining free agents, which was Montrezl Harrell. Last year, he played for the Charlotte Hornets and Washington Wizards, and he has been a solid backup five throughout his entire career, winning Sixth Man of the Year in 2019-2020, and now he's on the Philadelphia 76ers. This can be looked at multiple ways, so let's get into it. So let's start with the details. So the Sixers signed Montrezl Harrell to a 2-year deal, which includes a player option on the second year. This means that we now have another good backup center for Joel Embiid after Andre Drummond, after Dwight Howard. Montrezl Harrell will come in and be that backup center that the Philadelphia 76ers need. And I think he's going to be a very good fit on this Sixers team. He's an energy guy, which is what we need off the bench from that backup center position. And he adds toughness to a team that was searching for it this entire offseason. Philadelphia 76ers have certainly made it a priority to go out and add players that are tough, to add to the culture of that Philadelphia 76ers team, that locker room, and to just improve on one of their biggest areas of weakness that was very apparent in last year's playoffs. Montrezl Harrell also won Sixth Man of the Year the last time he was coached by a Doc Rivers, Sam Cassell-led team with the LA Clippers back in 2019-2020. He averaged 18 points per game during that span, but he also played 27 minutes per game, which I highly doubt he will end up playing because, of course, Joel Embiid is the starting center for this Philadelphia 76ers team. But nonetheless, he will still be a good fit as he's familiar with Doc Rivers-led teams. He's familiar with Doc Rivers' Sam Cassell, and he will be able to play well in this system. He's also familiar with James Harden, and reports are saying that James Harden had a factor in bringing Montrezl Harrell to the Philadelphia 76ers, and he was recruiting him as they had played together before on the Houston Rockets. And obviously, Montrezl Harrell is just a guy that's going to be good in the pick and roll. He'll be able to just benefit from James Harden and his driving to the basket ability, just feed off that. He's very aggressive, goes up against a lot of dunks. He will be the beneficiary of a lot of James Harden drives. And last year, he was able to average 13 points and 6 rebounds in 23 minutes of action per night. And he shot 64.5% from the field. Those are pretty good numbers coming off the bench for a backup center, what we need from a guy like that. And something else to talk about is that Philly is going to love Montrezl Harrell. He's a guy that's going to hype up the crowd. He's going to make hustle plays. He will fit right in here in Philadelphia, and the city will surely embrace him quickly. Something else that's interesting to mention is that it seems like over the past couple years, the Sixers have signed players that Joel Embiid has had a previous history with. So last season, obviously, they went out and they signed Andre Drummond. And then, of course, Montrezl Harrell and Embiid also have a history of getting into little altercations during games, especially last season. But it now seems like they will obviously put that to rest. That's all just talk on the basketball court, nothing more than that. And now they're on the same team, so Montrezl Harrell is going to come in and be that backup to Joel Embiid, buy into that role, and I'm sure everything will be good there. However, there are some drawbacks of adding Montrezl Harrell, and there's actually a couple reasons. So let's start with the first one. Number one, Paul Reed, I feel like, has gotten screwed out of his opportunity to show what he can really do. I think he can be something in this league. He's obviously dominated in the G League. He won G League MVP, and he's dominated in the Summer League multiple years now. And he's a very good defensive player. His per 36 numbers show how good of a player he can be in this league. His main issue is just fouling, but obviously with experience and playing time, he'll learn from his mistakes and be able to cut that down. So I feel like adding Montrezl Harrell it doesn't allow for Paul Reed to develop, and he probably won't get very much playing time again this season, because now Montrezl Harrell fills in that backup center role, which Paul Reed was going to be for this upcoming season. Something else about Montrezl Harrell coming to the Sixers, obviously, he's a little undersized at 6'7". We were talking about Paul Reed being undersized at 6'9". Montrezl Harrell is 6'7". He's not a great defensive player, and he can get exposed in the pick and roll in the playoffs sometimes. So that could be something to look out for, and especially with Doc Rivers being the coach of this team, he has a tendency to overplay these veterans instead of giving these young guys a chance to show what they can do. He tends to overplay the guys that he already feels like have proven themselves, even when they're getting killed. We saw with DeAndre Jordan last year in the playoffs. We saw it with Paul Millsap getting put on Giannis. Seems like Doc Rivers doesn't really give these young guys a chance. And with Montrezl Harrell coming in, if Montrezl Harrell's getting killed in the playoffs because he can't guard the pick and roll, because he can't defend the rim, because he's a little undersized, in matchups versus teams like maybe the Boston Celtics or something like that, I feel like Doc Rivers will still tend to play Montrezl Harrell just because he's the bigger name, and Paul Reed doesn't really have a long resume to show for it, when in reality, Paul Reed might be a lot better in those situations. So we'll see what happens with that. I feel like Doc Rivers is probably the main issue here. But yeah, other than that, Montrezl Harrell, I think the big takeaway is that he brings toughness to this team. Philadelphia 76ers obviously this offseason went out and made that a priority to go get tough players like PJ Tucker, like De'Anthony Melton, like Danuel. Now bringing in Montrezl Harrell. The team just got a lot tougher. That locker room, the whole attitude in there is just going to change. The dynamic on the court is going to change. And I'm just excited to see what this Philadelphia 76ers team is going to look like next season with all these new additions. The team just got a lot deeper this offseason. They added to one of their biggest weaknesses last season. And I'm excited to see what they can do, especially with all these guys that are being brought in, and also with James Harden being able to grow with the rest of the Philadelphia 76ers team, the continued development of Tyrese Maxey, and of course Joel Embiid continuing his MVP caliber play. The 76ers could be looking like a potential championship contending team next season. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got for this video, guys. If you did enjoy, subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this, and drop a like down below to help push this video out to other people. Comment down below your thoughts and opinions. What do you think of this signing of Montrezl Harrell to the Philadelphia 76ers? And follow me over on Instagram and Twitter for more content just like this. And with that being said, that's pretty much all I got for this video. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.